friends, it's Miracle, and today I'm bringing you my first ever book Unhaul video. I actually unhaul books pretty regularly in my life, just I have this habit to get rid of the books that I have read and I don't plan to reread, or the books that not interested me anymore. But I didn't have the habit to record a unhaul, just because I tend to get rid of like 1-2 books a time, so they weren't a huge amount of books to worth making a video. And this time it's different because I am moving and I'm so excited for it. It's happening, it's next weekend, and because I'm moving, I have to deal with all the books behind me and a lot of other books that are on other shelves in my apartment. So I was thinking about maybe I should do a declutter of my bookshelf. And also my library is calling for a donation tomorrow morning. So it's like 2 days before my planned bookshelf's packing date and a week before my move. What a perfect timing. I just got so excited when I saw the news, and I went into some thinking about this unhaul. I wanted to donate some books that I have read and don't plan to reread, of course, but I also want to donate some books that I want my library to have. They also called for children's books specifically. I don't have a lot of children's books, but I do have some, so I have some of those in this unhaul as well. So without further ado, let's dive into this video. The first 2 books I'm donating is To Kill a Mockingbird and also Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. These 2 books, I'm sure my library already got them, but if they have actual copies, they'll just sell them on the library sale and to fund the library. So I'm donating these. I haven't read these actually, and I keep hearing the things about you need to be very critical when you go into the 2 classics, especially for the second one, Go Set a Watchman. So I gradually lost my interest in reading them, but I do have these. This one specifically is a very beautiful hard copy, so I want either the library to have it or somebody really like the story to have it, so I'm donating both of these. And then I have 2 very cute books about Norway and Norwegian culture. They are called The Norway Way and Brown Cheese Please. They're both by Jenny K. Blake. These are 2 books that were very important, and I actually hunt them down when I started to learn Norwegian because I'm so interested in Norwegian culture. And these are very cute illustrated books about like simple ways like how people live in Norway, what are the social norms in Norway, and some of the traditional food and interesting things that happen during the immigration process of the author to Norway, and I liked them so much. If you didn't know, Brown Cheese Please is actually named after a very iconic kind of cheese that is specifically very special to Norway called brown cheese. It's a little bit sweeter than the other kind of cheese, and we actually got to try it in the Norwegian class. It was so fun. However, I don't think they have a lot of reread value for me, and also they count as children's books, I think, because they are like illustrated. I don't know, but I really want my library to have them just because they're so fun to learn about Norwegian cultures from these 2 books. Next, I have Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This is a book that I actually wanted to read starting when I was in high school, and I just like always very intrigued by the idea of the story, but for some reason I just didn't read it until now. Last year, some of you may know that I read a book called My Dark Vanessa, and it became one of my favorite books of last year. And the story is about a 15-year-old schoolgirl who went into this relationship with her 42-year-old teacher at that time, and she ended up have to deal with this abusive and manipulative relationship her entire life. And Lolita was referenced quite a lot in that book, but also it gives me this very weird feelings that I don't want to read it anymore. So I just feel like at this time I don't want to read such a story from a group like adult man's perspective. I know this is a classic, I know people are studying this, I know this is also controversial and debatable. Yeah, but I just don't think this is a story for me anymore, and I just kind of have, this eerie feelings about any of those kind of stories. The next book I'm getting rid of is Freedom from Fear by Aung San Suu Kyi. This book I have not read as well. I got this book years ago when Aung San Suu Kyi was still like a freedom icon in my mind, and I just wanted to read about what she has to say about freedom, about the situation in Burma. But last year I read about Burma in the From and About Asia reading project, and I actually actually see a lot of very controversial things about Aung San Suu Kyi after she got the power and what she did to the country of Burma, especially a marginalized group in Burma. For this reason, I don't think I'm ready for reading about her works now. Maybe after I read more and know more about Burma, I will be more critical into reading things like this, but not at this moment. Next, I have this legit kids book that is so beautiful, and I think someone will really love it. It's this copy of Beauty of the Beast. This is not just a gorgeous cover, but also it's a pop-up book with a lot of little things like this. I got this when the movie Beauty and the Beast came out. I thought it will be a very good thing to collect in my collection, but over the years I grew out of the story and it didn't really have a strong emotional tie to my childhood anyway, so I wanted to donate this to the library to see if they want to keep it or they want to sell it to someone who really appreciates the beauty of this book. Following, I have Commonwealth by M. Paget. This is a book that I got when I first started BookTube, and I remember I saw it quite a lot on BookTube back in the days, but honestly I forgot what the story is about. I just know that it was super popular, but I don't know. I don't have interest in reading it anymore, and I try to read the blurb of it, and I think it's time to let it go. And then I have My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otasha Mashfag. I read this book and I really loved it when I was reading it. This book is talking about a young woman who went through some family tragedy, but she also inherited a huge amount of money. So she was on this journey to make sense of her life. What she ended up doing is she somehow managed to get a lot of sleeping pills and slept for almost a year, and things happened during that time. She's also trying to figure out some of the relationships she had with some very important people in her life, and the ending of this book was quite shocking. I kept this book and I was thinking about rereading it someday, but now I don't think I want to reread it anymore just because the huge amount of descriptions for depressions in the book that might be triggering. I read it when I was not in a very good situation, but now I'm getting better. I don't want to go back to the gloomy atmosphere that this book brought me again. So I think I'm gonna let it go. If in the future I want to read this book again or somehow, I can always borrow a book from the library. Next, I have Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates. This is a book that I really liked when I started to read about feminism. This is a book that is very illuminating. It's actually a collection of the daily problems that women into regarding to sexism. I resonated so much with this book, and I think this book is so powerful if you read the common day-to-day situations that women is facing and you realize that how sexism our society is. That being said, I think this book is a very intro level of feminism, and I think it's time for somebody else to read it and maybe learn from it. And also, we're still experiencing everything that in this book in our day-to-day life, on the internet, on every aspect of our life. So I don't need a reminder of it on my bookshelf, and I'm hoping someone will really like it. Following, I have Tell Me How It Ends, an essay in 40 questions by Valeria Luisi. This is a book that I read and I think it's really valuable. The book is about the author's experiences doing volunteering, interpreting job for the children that came from the border of Mexico to the United States. A lot of the children, they don't speak English and they are apart from their parents. So the author's job was to translate all the forms and help them to fill them out to determine if they have an opportunity to stay in the US or not. This is a very heartbroken book, and the author also talks about her immigration process in this book. I read it, I really liked it, and I think I learned so much from it, but I just don't think that I would reread it again, and it's better for somebody else to learn from it. The next book is The Accusation by Bendy. This is a collection of variety of stories telling how people really live in North Korea and all the horrifying things that they experienced day to day. I read this book for the North Korean month for the From and About Asia reading project. We also had a very good group discussion about it because we were buddy reading it, and we all agreed that this book is already important. It's like the only book that was written by an author who still lives in North Korea, I believe. So it's very real and very raw and so powerful, but I just don't think I will reread it again. And compared to the subject matter of the stories, I think the writing is a little bit lacking, so that's one of the reasons I don't want to reread it. So it's time to let it go. And then I have a book I just finished last month. It's Some at Journey's Ends by Erik Forsnes Hansen. It's translated by John Tate. This is the fictionalized version of the members' story of the band on Titanic, how they became musicians and how come they came together on board on the Titanic. But the stories are all made up and they're not related to the Titanic at all. I didn't really enjoy it. I feel like each person's story is kind of repetitive. However, we do have a book club member. Oh, we were book clubbing. I read this book with a book club from my Scandinavian school where I learned my Norwegian, so that's why. When we were discussing about this book, one of the members was actually a musician, and she said all of the writings about musicians are actually very accurate in this book, and she resonates with this book a lot. So I think this book is just not for me, maybe for somebody else who likes to read about musicians. And speaking of Norwegian, I have this A Dollhouse by Henrik Ibsen. This is a book that I got when I'm still attending the Norwegian language school, and it's actually a dual language version. It has Norwegian on the left and English on the right. We were actually kind of forced to get this book because one of the classmates was so interested in reading something in Norwegian, and he just thought it would be a good idea to read a book that is ancient years ago. So we all got it, and we actually got 2 copies of it. This is my copy, and my partner's copy was a pure Norwegian one. And it wasn't useful for our study. It's just because the Norwegian was written in a very ancient Norwegian way. It's not the day-to-day Norwegian that they speak today. And also, we weren't at that level yet to digest a whole book during one semester. So this book ended up we didn't read at all. It wasn't a very pleasure memory about this book, but I don't know if anyone will be interested in reading this book or something, so I'm donating it to see if anyone will pick it up. Like I said, if I ever want to read a Norwegian version of this screenplay, I'll just read my partner's copy. Second to the last, I have Square Hunting by Francisca Wade. This is a book that I read last year for the Booktube prize. I didn't really like it. I didn't rank it for very high either, but I know some people really loved it. This is a group biography about a group of female writers when they somehow all had these experiences living in this square in London during their lives, including Virginia Woolf and a lot of the well-named ones. I just don't like the style. And the last book on this donation pile is My Beijing by Nie Jun. This counts as another kids book, so I'm really happy about it. This is 4 illustrated stories about a person's childhood story in the hutongs in Beijing, which are the little streets in Beijing. I loved it, and I really like the art styles as well. It's very bright and happy. I think some kids will definitely enjoy it. I just don't think I will reread it again. And yeah, this is for one of the kids donations. And that's all the books I'm gonna part with tomorrow morning. I'm actually very excited about this donation because before I was just sending my secondhand books to charity shops or secondhand bookstores. I didn't know my library would host events like this. Actually, it just didn't click with me. They for sure take donations, but I just didn't know when and where I should send them. So I'm really glad that I found out this event 1 week before my move, and they specifically said if there's anything that they don't keep, they'll sell them to fund the library. So I hope you enjoyed this unhaul as well. Let me know, do you have any habits of unhauling books, or how do you deal with the books that you have read and don't plan to reread? And don't forget to say hi in the comment section down below. Thumbs up to this video if you liked it. I wish you a happy reading, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!